Hi, I'm Jo from J.H.Leather and welcome to my brand new podcast. In this podcast, I'll be keeping you all up to date with things that I've got up to in the workshop this month, as well as hopefully having some special guest features from the world of Leathercraft. So as this is the first episode, I thought I would start by giving you a history of J.H.Leather and sort of who I am, just in case you don't know. So, hi, I am Jo and I own and run J.H.Leather. So for me, it actually all started sort of between doing my A-levels and knowing what I wanted to do afterwards. So at the time, I actually had applied and got into Exeter University to do archaeology because I quite like my history and that sort of thing. But it wasn't just set. I'm not a social person. And so the thought of going to university really did not fill me with joy, which was why I picked the most local one to where we were. But I mean, at the time I was doing sort of a lot of horse riding, and my friend, I would, speak to her a lot, and at the time I was actually also thinking maybe about becoming like a blacksmith or a farrier, doing all the horses and stuff like that. But my friend pointed out to me that her farrier was the most miserable man she knew, and he was always complaining about horses getting kicked and having a bad back and all those sort of things. And she said, why didn't you become a saddler? And that's where it all started. So I then sort of, started looking into it because I really loved making stuff anyway. And I found someone who would take me on, and I did a week's work experience at Quantock Saddlery. And it was great, just being able to be with leather, because I'd never at that point even really touched proper leather, as it were. And so it was great. And sort of whilst, I was waiting for that, I also applied to go to Capel Manor College, which I did actually get into in that year's intake, which was also pretty amazing. So for me, everything started in 2008 when I started my training at Capel Manor College in Enfield. So the course there, it was a 2 years course, and it was the cordwainer's diploma, and it was focused on sort of saddlery and sort of the pathway to becoming a saddler. So through that, we did a series of skills tests, which sort of went towards becoming a saddler here in the UK. And so we did our level 1s in the first year and our level 2s in the second year, and they were sort of saddle, bridle and harness, and you had to make different components for each, and you would pre-submit some items, and then on the day you would have a timed exam as well. And they were quite stressful to do sometimes, but they're actually a very good way, I think, of doing the exams and that sort of thing. Whilst we were there, we were also able to enter the training sort of classes at the National Saddlers Competition, which was run by the Society of Master Saddlers, and that sort of gave us as students sort of not the platform but the ability to go and meet sort of master saddlers and potential employers after we finished the course. And sort of whilst doing the course, I did actually, because I wanted to go on and get my apprenticeship, I got a couple of work experience dates with Lawrence Pearman at Stroud Saddlery. And like I said, I did a couple of weeks with him over sort of differing holidays and stuff like that. And eventually, once I finished doing my cordwainer's diploma, I was actually taken on as an apprentice, which was really, well, it was awesome really, because it was actually it's very hard here in the UK to actually get into saddlery as an apprentice if you haven't got experience or anything like that. And so to be able to do the course and then go straight into doing my apprenticeship, that was really good. And it, like I said, I mean, at the time, I think, there was like less than about probably 10 apprentices in the whole country. So yeah, so a huge thank you to Lawrence to taking me on, because he did already have an apprentice at the time as well. And so throughout the apprenticeship, it was sort of based around working up and doing these skills tests. And so having already done all my level 1s and my level 2s, I was able to go straight in and do my level 3s. And so that meant I could do my level 3 bridle, saddle and harness exams, which basically we would spend 1 week at the Saddlery Training Centre in Salisbury every other month, where you would work towards doing your skills tests. So you would make up your pre-made products and then you would do your exam. And so to give you an example of the exam, so for my level 3 bridle, you had to pre-submit a stallion in hand bridle and a double bridle, and so the double bridle was stitched in 12 stitches per inch as well. So they were the sort of submitted, and then on the day, I don't remember the time, but you had to make an Atherstone girth and do a little sample piece where you would make a chape and you'd stitch that with a buckle on through 3 layers of elastic. And so it was just a way to show that you were able to do the skills that needed to be a saddler. And because at the time, that's what I wanted to do. And that is the path that I took. So fortunately, they all went well and I passed them. Now, throughout my apprenticeship, I was also able to enter the Society of Master Saddlers competitions in the training categories as well as in the Master and Apprentice categories. Now, I was fortunate enough to do quite well in these, and so I have quite a few awards from them. And it's just one of those great things to be sort of training and be able to work towards these and enter these sort of competitions, and just to go to see the sort of level of work that the saddlers in the UK can do. It's just amazing. And so I was also able to enter the Master and Apprentice class, and that is where Izzy, who also worked at Strauss Saddlery, as well as Emily, they both came into the fold because they were both Master Saddlers. And so being able to feed off them and get training from basically 3 Master Saddlers, it was really great, and it gave me a really good grounding. And I was able to I entered the Master and Apprentice classes with Izzy, and I think we won quite a few times, which is just great to be able to do that. And Izzy, she's got her own bridal making business, and hopefully one day we'll get her to come on to the podcast and we can have a good chat with her, because some of the people who she's made bridal for are just amazing, and her work and quality is just awesome. So it was great to work alongside sort of all of them to just sort of absorb knowledge from as many people as I could, and sort of, take on and develop my own skills and that sort of thing. So that was a great sort of grounding to have. And also through doing the apprenticeship and working at a working saddlers, we would do sort of repairs and stuff like that. So you would see a lot of stuff come through, and sort of your knowledge would just like skyrocket when you sort of start out doing something like that, because you're doing it every day, all day, like 5 days a week. So that was a really good place, I think, for me to start. And I'm very thankful for the opportunities that I've had to actually go and be able to do the cordwainers course, because they're very small courses. They have they have 2 year groups, and they're in 1 class in each group. So there's about, I think, 13 people maximum per sort of group per year on the cordwainers diploma. And then sort of to be able to come straight off the back and to get the apprenticeship, it meant so much to me. And it made me the leathercrafter that I am. So after the 3-year apprenticeship, I stayed on for a further year, and then eventually made the move up to Wales, where I set up J.H.Leather. And that was, when was that? I think I was 24. So 2014, I think it was then. Yeah, around then. And so one of the main things that I wanted to do, or what I wanted to focus on, was sort of dog collars, because that was where I liked to be, I guess you could call it. Making all the bridal works with Izzy was amazing, getting all the skills and the knowledge from her. But I was always more interested in doing like the dog collars, because I preferred dogs to horses. So when I moved and was able to set up on my own, I was able to take that business decision then to focus on that and bring in sort of different leather colours and make, new connections with different suppliers that we hadn't used when we were sort of at Stroud. So I focused on the dog collars, and I had loads of dog collars that I offered, and they did really well. And I was able to sort of slowly, build up my skills a bit more, build up my brand, because I had to make my website myself. And the first website that I made, it was on a program called Make Your Own Website 101 in a box. It was something really stupid like that, but so I made it all on there, and it was like a page by page that you had to make it. And it worked really well, to be fair. I was quite happy with it. It did work well, so that was pretty good. And then eventually, sort of as things grew and my customer base got bigger, I then moved and made my first proper, the other website was a proper one, but this one I made on Shopify, which was just amazing because it was an actual professional looking website as opposed to the one that I'd made myself. I still host my website today on Shopify, and I've been on Shopify for ages. And if you are looking at something, websites are a lot easier to make nowadays. So Shopify, Squarespace, they're great places for you to create your own website if you're at that stage in your leather crafting and you are looking to salespeople. So I did have a store on Etsy, which also actually worked quite well in the beginning to get my sort of goods out to the world. Because Etsy, most of my customers on Etsy came from the US, whereas they wouldn't, I think, naturally find my website in, obviously it was a .co.uk website, so it was unlikely to come up on American search engines. However, if it was on Etsy, then it would. So, having, both sets, that really pushed the J.H.Leather brand, I guess, on. And so, that was that. I have now closed my Etsy store because it was just getting a bit too much trying to manage everything. But as to start with, it had its place, and it doesn't have its place anymore. Unfortunately, I just prefer using my my own website to host everything all in one place. And now, whilst I was actually setting up J.H.Leather to start with, so I moved up here with my partner Tim, and to start with, I was just focusing on doing the leather work, and all the money that I'd saved up from my last sort of month's work, I put into the business to get the premises, which, to be fair, it doesn't cost very much a month at all compared with a lot of other businesses. I'm very lucky to have a very cheap rent to pay, but it was just so I could get my grounding and that. So for the first, I think 3 to 4 months, I just focused on doing my leather, and then to sort of help supplement that, it wasn't making a lot of money, so I needed to get a part-time job. And so I started working for Tim's business. He runs a downhill mountain bike centre with his brother, and I would help Friday, Saturday, Sunday drive the uplift vehicles. And so through doing that, I was able to actually fund creating my leather business. And then sort of not too long after that, I think the end of 2016, I then sort of got my camera and started doing sort of proper, photography. And so after about another 6 months after that, I then set up a photography business and stopped doing the uplift driving. So I was and have been running 2 businesses for quite a while. So I had my photography business where I would take photos of people riding at the bike park and sell them the digital files. And then during the week, I would do my leather work. And so having them, it was quite a balance, and I think I did quite well keeping that balance to start with. At the moment, I am now just focusing on J.H.Leather and trying to push this and push YouTube and just get Leathercraft out to the masses, because I love it so much and I want as many people to get involved as possible, really. And so that is where the YouTube kind of started from. So I started the channel properly in 2016, and so that came about because Tim and I would watch a lot of gaming videos, because we're both into gaming, so we'd watch a lot of gaming videos on YouTube. And I was just watching it, and I was like, what, why can't I do this for Leathercraft? There's no reason why I can't start making Leathercraft videos. And at the time, there wasn't that much, or as much as there is now, in the way of sort of Leathercraft channels. So I uploaded my first video in April 2016. And so obviously, what's that? Nearly 6 years ago. And so when I actually started filming the YouTube videos, I actually started on a bridge camera, a little Sony bridge camera that I had at the time. And it wasn't until later the same year that I actually got a DSLR, but that one didn't actually do any video. So for quite a while, I was actually just filming it on my bridge camera, which worked quite well for the start of the channel. And I chose to do voiceovers, and that was something that I chose to do right from the start, because I'm not sure if you noticed, but I do stumble on words quite a lot, and I decided this way I was able to make sure that I would get all the information into the video that I wanted. And they were still pretty awkward, the first sort of few videos when I listened back to them. I am much better now at doing voiceovers, I think. But yeah, so that was a decision that I made from the start, just to make sure that I got in all the information that I needed to. Now, it wasn't until 2020 when I actually started a second channel, and that was when I started to appear in the videos more, with the first one being the launch of my first DIY kit. And sort of even then, looking back on it, I was still really awkward on camera, but that was the start of sort of me getting more comfortable with it. And sort of the combination of getting sort of a new camera with better autofocus. So this was when I moved to the Nikon Z6, and that had actual video autofocus for people. And it was starting the Hi, I'm Joe channel that really sort of pushed me and got me more comfortable being sort of in the videos more. And now I am at just under 75,000 subscribers, which is just amazing. And it's kind of weird because when I said to Tim, I'm going to start it, he was really supportive. And the main thing that I wanted, or my main really far out there goal, way off in the distance, I'd always set my sight on getting to 100,000 subscribers to get that silver play button. And it didn't, it was one of those, I'll never reach it or anything like that. But to be sort of at the cusp of it, and, hopefully, if I can continue to deliver the good, I think it's good, so I hope you guys think it's good, the good content, and sort of get that out to people this year. Hopefully we will hit that 100,000 subscriber mark, which will just be amazing to actually get to that point. I think, it's one of those things I can't really quantify it, that many people, already that, the almost 75,000 of you that have subscribed to the channel through just the videos I post. It's just such an amazing feeling to feel that I've, maybe I've not helped that many people, but to have helped even a fraction of, the people who subscribe with their leathercraft and to get into a new hobby or anything like that. I think, as someone who I really, really love leathercraft, and for me being able to, get as many people into it, that's what I like. It's getting people into it because it is such a great craft, and the more people that do it, the better, because I just because I love it, and just to get more people involved in it is just a great feeling. And so through doing the YouTube, I was starting to get more interest in people actually wanting to come to the workshop and do in-person sort of courses and workshops and stuff like that. So I think a year or two after I set up the YouTube channel, I then did my first ever in-person course, which was the scariest thing I've ever done to put out. Because to start with, I decided I'll set the dates and people can book on and it'll be these dates, etc, etc. And so from the first course, I had 4 places that were available, and I got 4 sets of tools all ready. And I must say a huge thank you to Abbey England for that, because they actually helped me out a ton with getting the tools needed for that first sort of workshop, and they actually donated quite a bit to me, which was just amazing. So a huge thank you to Abbey for that. And it just meant that, I didn't have as much outlay to start doing the workshops when they sort of came about. So I had the first day in, and it was getting closer and closer to the date, and I still had no one booked on. And then eventually 2 people did book on, and then it became a reality, because then it was like, oh, no, I actually have to teach these 2 people. And then all the doubts come in. I do struggle a lot with confidence, and I do have a lot of self-doubt. So once they then booked on, it was like, okay, now I have to deliver the class, and am I going to be good enough? Are they going to go away happy? Because it wasn't a cheap course. And so thankfully they did. And one of the ladies actually has now gone on. She did run a sort of dog accessory company already, and she's now gone on to add a leather sort of collar and lead line to that. So that's awesome to have been able to show her in her first few days of leathercraft, this is what we're doing. So now she has that as a huge sort of staple part of her business, and it's very rewarding sort of seeing that. And that's the bit that I like, having people come to the workshop who've got, who've never, touched leather before, to then go away with whatever it is they've made. And so for me, that's, the biggest thing, that they were like, you have a lot of people come that they've not really done anything practical before, and so that they go away with this thing that they have made, and it's great to see their faces. And, that's the kick that I get out of it, just seeing how happy people are when they're like, oh my God, I've come here and I've made this thing, whatever it is, like a notebook or whatever. And so things started to transition for me away from doing more of the saddlery, the dog collar sort of side of thing, to doing more of the leather goods side. Probably about 2020 was when I started to get really into trying to start to do that. And in the beginning of last year and beginning of 2021, I made the decision, for a couple of reasons, to sort of transition away from doing the dog collars and sort of doing more of the small leather goods and focusing more on my YouTube channel. The main sort of reason for that is because I suffer a lot with repetitive strain, especially in my elbow, and it was getting to the point where doing the dog collars, if I was getting I could do sort of 5-6 dog collar orders in a week, which it does add up doing all that stitching, because everything is, I do everything by hand. And so at the beginning of last year, that was when I made the decision to properly wind back on that, and I took all of the dog collar and the lead listings off the website. So I I could focus more on my YouTube channel, and which is what I wanted to do, and focus more on these small leather goods. So I sort of had to do a bit of retraining, because I mean, obviously I've got the skills, but to transition from doing the bridal work to doing a fine wallet, that was quite a big step. And so when I actually started making wallets, I think like a lot of people, when they first start making wallets, the ones that I was making were literal bricks. They were so thick and chunky. And so I actually got a subscription to the Leathercraft Masterclass, which was really good. And I do actually recommend that. And, personal growth is something that I think everyone needs. And where some people, you can learn from me, I need to learn from other people as well. And so, yeah, I did the 6 months with him, or doing the courses that Philip offered, and that really, it boosted me, and I think I am a much better crafter for doing that. And hopefully you guys have noticed I've sort of refined things a lot, and now I'm focusing more on doing these small leather goods because I really enjoy doing that, basically. But it also meant that I did get more time so I could focus doing the YouTube, as well as running the one-to-one workshops, which are now getting really sort of busy and really popular. So I have mentioned that I have another channel, and now this is the channel that I've called Hi, I'm Jo, because that was how I started every one of my leather videos. So I thought that was a good channel name for this new one. And so this is what I focus on. So when I'm not crafting, I do really like making videos and sort of pushing myself to learn more technique, whether it's filming, editing, all that sort of stuff. And so this is what I like to do in my spare time, I guess. And so what I learned from making the videos on that channel, I can then use to make better videos for this channel. And it's also great for us, as I've been doing sort of a lot of videos with Skylar, so I do sort of walking videos with Skylar, but I also sort of document our holidays, because we have a boat, we got a little sailing boat, and so we go to Scotland, and last year was the first sort of real big trip that we did on it, and I decided to try and vlog it a bit. I've learned a lot from doing that. I still haven't finished all of the videos because we were there for quite a while, but and from that, I mean, even just from doing that, I learned so much sort of with the video and sort of how to actually structure more of a vlog. And I think this time when we go away, they will be hopefully even better. But I like the sort of video aspect of it, because, if you have a video, you can easily just sort of get that out if people ask you, or if you're sort of down and you want to remember the good times, you can just quickly go and get your video from YouTube, rather than having to load up your computer, go and find where your folder is for all your photos. And so it's also my family are scattered across the globe. It was a way for me to connect with them and sort of bring them along with me so they can see what we've got up to, as I don't get to see them that often. So my dad, I saw this Christmas, which was great, and that was the first time I'd seen him in 2 years, because he lives in the States, and with war that's been going on in the world, he's not been able to get over, so I don't get to see all of them that often. So it's I guess a good way to connect with them. And if you are interested in watching any of those videos, I'll leave a link in the description for you. So that is the history of J.H.Leather and sort of the business from when I was a little student to where we are now. And so yeah, so that's the history lesson over. So what I have been doing this month. So this month, you may have noticed it's been quite quiet on the YouTube and on social media if you follow me on Instagram. And there's two reasons for that. The one being, for my birthday and Christmas present this year, Tim brought me a trip to Iceland. And not the supermarket, the country. So we went to Iceland for a few days earlier this month, which was amazing to get away. We did get quite unlucky with the weather, in that pretty much every single one of our excursions got cancelled, which was a bit of a shame. We did get to go to the Blue Lagoon, which is the geothermal hot pools that they have there, which was a really cool experience. And they had a really cool museum that we went to as well, which was nice. And they had an ice cave inside. I mean, that was pretty amazing. But yeah, so we had a really lovely time in Iceland. And then since getting back, I have been working on filming my first proper course. So I can't say too much about it now because it's not ready yet, but it has been filmed. And as soon as it's edited and ready to launch, I am working with a company on this, and it will be launched on their platform. But however, once it's all ready, it will I should let you know. And so I'm really quite excited about that, because this is like the first time I've had a company sort of come to me and ask for sort of a course or anything like that. So on the channel, I've done a couple of, sponsors videos and stuff like that. Like the Tools Time stuff started as a sponsored video from Skillshare, which was my first sort of sponsorship on the channels, and I'm really excited for it. And it's a beginner course, so it's going to be for someone who is just getting into leathercraft. So if that is you, keep your eyes peeled, and I will be letting you know as soon as it's ready to, where you can get it and what it's all about and all that sort of stuff. So I filmed it last week and I am editing it this week. So hopefully it should be out, I would say, middle of February, but don't hold me to that. We'll have to wait and see. So that's pretty exciting, and that's why I've been pretty quiet sort of this month on the channel. But moving forward, I have got loads and loads of ideas as what I want to do with the channel and sort of what videos I want to make for you guys this year, and I'm sort of really excited about that. There is something in March that I am super excited about, and again, unfortunately, I can't tell you too much about it, but all you need to know is that it's gonna be awesome. So I'm really excited for that, really, and sort of where that can take the business, and how it's something that I'm hoping will help you out as well. So hopefully it wins all round, and we will have to wait to see. So okay, so that brings us to the end of this first podcast. So hopefully, like I said, I'm going to try and bring in some special guests throughout the year, and hopefully that will give you a bit more of an insight into leathercraft and sort of all the different avenues and different aspects that are involved in leathercraft. So if you are interested in learning more, or you want some help with your leathercraft, we do have a Discord channel which will be linked in the description of this podcast, where you can join us, and we've got a really nice community there. You can show your work off. If you've got stuck on a project, you can sort of let us know, and if I can't help you, there will be someone else on the Discord channel that can help you out. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm going to leave links in the description below to all my social medias and stuff like that if you would like to follow me. And so that's it for me, and I will see you in the next one.